Sal Capaccio joins the show now on the WR Hotline. Good morning. It's Jeremy and Joe. Jeremy is off today. Happy Thanksgiving. A lot of good football games tomorrow. Sal, I don't know if you've looked at the schedule in the last little bit here, but tomorrow, I mean, maybe we say this every year since the Lions got good, but tomorrow feels like as good a Thanksgiving slate as we've ever seen.
I like it. I agree with you. It seems like it's definitely better than what we've been used to.
Yeah.
The Bills have played in each of the windows, right, over the last few years when it comes to Thanksgiving. They played in the 1 o'clock window in Detroit a few years ago, 4 o'clock window in Dallas in 2019, and a couple years later in New Orleans in the night game. So, yeah, I agree with that. I did look at the same thing the other day and go, you know what? There's some actual good games that even though what I like, Joe, here's what I like, though.
Yeah.
The early game, it's a good game, but it's not one you have to be completely dialed in on. The later game, because it's Kansas City, you will be, and even the later game from that, even more so, kind of ramps up from a Bills perspective.
Yeah,
kind of ramps up as the day goes on.
Right. The first one, if you're just a football fan, will be tough to not be dialed in on because that's a big game for both teams. Like they are. Yeah. Detroit's not in a playoff spot right now. Green Bay is got a couple losses. They could even be out of a playoff spot if they lose. But you're right. For the Bills, I mean, everyone's going to want the Chiefs to stay out, right? And so that's an easy one for Dallas. And then I guess Baltimore, Cincy, the best case scenario would be Cincy, right? Because you're going to want Baltimore to lose the division to Pittsburgh, but also you don't want Pittsburgh to win this week. So
no, right. I think so. Yeah, let's take a look at it. So
because no one's worried about Cincy getting back in. I don't think they have.
Yeah, you want Cincy. I think you want Cincy. I think the only argument against Cincy would be, do you think, and I don't think we are there, though. I think this would not be true, but it could be, I guess, that if the Bengals lose, would they still continue to put Burrow out there?
I think if they were to continue to lose games, they probably. Well, I don't know. I
guess what I'm saying is, though, but would they play Burrow against the Bills next week if they lose tomorrow night? They still would play him, right?
I think they would still play him. Isn't that probably up to the player?
I guess so. Yeah, probably right.
Because
so no matter what, he's going to play against the Bills, and he has 10 days to get ready. Yeah. So you might as well hope that they win and knock the Ravens down a little bit. But again, the weirdest thing here is, I think everybody would say you don't want the Ravens 4 and the Bills 5, right? I mean, that's like a bad scenario.
That is correct.
Okay, so
we got into that a little earlier in the week, Sal. Like that's where I've been. Are you one to think that the Ravens have won 5 in a row or 4 in a row, whatever it is, but they've not really looked impressive? Like Lamar doesn't look healthy. Do you still feel like it is a big difference between I got to go on the road to Baltimore in the first round versus if the Bills would have to go to Indy, Denver, or New England?
Kind of do, only because I still think about the matchup, right? But you're right. I've been there, Joe. I've been thinking about the same way, which is the Ravens aren't the same team. They have been running the ball. Derrick Henry hasn't been running it as effectively, but it's still, the difference to me is the Bills are still not built to play that kind of football. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's why I say, to me, it's still a tough matchup and a tougher matchup, but it's not as daunting as you might have thought maybe a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And even though they are getting healthy. Anyway, the point I'm bringing up here is if you do subscribe to the theory that Ravens 4, Bills 5 is not great, then the Bills actually are hurting themselves by beating the Steelers and having the Ravens win. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I get it, but that's right. But that's exactly what you want. Now, I would also say this. If the Ravens win and the Colts lose this week to the Texans, which is possible, the Ravens have a very legitimate shot at getting to the 3 seed before all this is over.
They could. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely in the window. They're 2 games back right now. But the way their schedule sets up, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's a little easier. I think they could probably get there. They win 2 games against Pittsburgh down the stretch here. That'll help too. There's still a lot to be figured out. Before we get to the Bills, the Chiefs and tomorrow's big for them. But Sal, I was looking at them earlier. They don't have tiebreakers over anybody. Like they've lost head to head to the Bills, Jaguars, and Chargers. And I think really the biggest reason they have no tiebreakers.
Only the Colts, but I don't know if that would matter.
Right. They have a 3-4 conference record, which I think is probably going to hurt them down the stretch here.
Yeah, I agree. If you take a look at the standings, the thing that's hurting the Bills is also hurting the Chiefs, and that's conference record, because The Bills right now are actually in a three-way tie, as you know, with the Chargers, the Jags, and themselves, the Bills. And the Bills have a 4-3 conference record. Jacksonville's 4-2, one less game. The Chargers are 6-2 in the conference. They're in the driver's seat when it comes to any of this.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about teams you did not play head-to-head, like the Chargers or Jags for the Bills, it comes down to conference record. The other thing that happens is if you wind up like in a three-way tie, even with a team you played, it could come down to conference record depending on if the other teams played each other.
Yeah.
Then that matters. And the Bills are not in a great spot there. They're 4-3, but neither is Kansas City, as you said. They're 3-4. What hurts the Bills here is if the Bills and Chiefs wind up tied, the Bills have the head-to-head. But, Joe, if it becomes a more than two-way tie, then you go to more the conference record. Now, that would help the Bills with the Chiefs, but not with another team. So even though you have it on the Chiefs, you might not have it on the other team you're with. And that's why this game, to circle it back, this game is massive for both these teams. If the Steelers beat the Bills, they pass them in the standings. And if the Texans beat the Colts, the Bills are suddenly in the 9 spot in the AFC. If the Bills beat the Steelers, they put separation between themselves and a team that's chasing them, and they have the head-to-head. So, yeah, this is a massive game this week for both teams.
Yeah, and at the moment, I don't think there are a lot of fans that are super worried about the Bills missing the playoffs. There might be a few.
Right.
But I think this game, especially for Pittsburgh, Sal, like the Bills, I don't think they can. The winning division is such a tough play at this point, and I don't know about them missing the playoffs. Well, Pittsburgh, I mean, they are mixing in losses here every other week, and they just continue to live this same life. Are they 6-5 every single year? Like this is a team where their fans are getting sick of it. Where it's like, okay, even if we get in, what are we going to do? And I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers has done enough this year to make them think that it's all that different than the life they've been living.
No, that's right. We just had, by the way, a little plug here. Matt Bove and I just recorded It's Always Game Day in Buffalo last night, and we had Andrew Filipponi on with us.
Yep.
Really great conversation about the Steelers. And you know the way Andrew is a lot of times, and he's not a Mike Tomlin fan, right? And, you know, he said he'll give him credit for something, and I said, well, that's kind of odd for you. I laughed. He said, you're right. He said, I'm not big on Tomlin because exactly what you said, Joe. Like they live the same existence every year, right? And they win enough games to get in the playoffs. They have this 500 record, but they never have a better team than that. He basically, you know, believes too that, you know, Aaron Rodgers has been okay, but he's been a different player for some reason since like the first month of the year. He was on fire. Something happened. Something's going on. I don't know, injury, whatever. Whatever mental state of how he's feeling about something or other has really made them go kind of, what is happening? What's going on here? And I'm looking at the numbers for Aaron Rodgers, and it's wild because, Joe, he has the lowest average depth of target in the league. Like everything they do is really short. Like they don't throw the ball downfield at all. We talk about the Bills not throwing the ball downfield. Like the numbers say the Bills actually do it once in a while more than most teams, or at least on average, like some of their throws. Not great. And that's a big part of the issue with them right now, and like their offense where they are. They get Rodgers, and you're like, oh, okay, he looks really good, but like you're not even using him necessarily.
What's crazy about that is it feels like the arm strength is still there. He had a Hail Mary a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
It was the longest throw in the league.
Pony said the same thing. He's like, he's still got great arm strength too.
Right. And he has DK Metcalf. So, like, maybe that's it. But you have one guy that is amazing down the field. Yeah, you're right. That is very strange. That is Arthur Smith maybe could be a big reason for that. That's how he's run offenses. So, yeah, that's very strange.
Well, here's his theory.
Okay.
That basically Mike Tomlin, and he made a parallel to Sean McDermott here. And while I do think that there are some similarities here, I wouldn't go as far as Andrew went by saying this, but I'll just give you what he said. And again, please go listen to the podcast. It's great. Andrew was really good on this. We also talked about how his nipples are doing, by the way. Just want everybody to know.
because
he did make a bet. He did make a bet early in the year that he said if the Steelers didn't beat the Bengals on Thursday Night Football, he'd have his nipples pierced without numbing agent, and he actually had to do that, and he went viral. And they raised money for breast cancer, but we had a conversation about it. Anyway, so that said, his theory is Tomlin just wants to play such risk-averse football and win by playing defense and not turning the ball over. That's why they do that.
Man, I mean, I think I would be pulling my hair out if I were there right now, especially because you have the Super Bowl, but it was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
And like that type of thinking has just been there for years, and it's so long since they won a playoff game. I would be losing my mind. My favorite way to put into perspective how long it's been, Sal, is that there are 3 former Bills coaches that have won playoff games more recently than Tomlin has, which is unbelievable. And if you're wondering who those 3 are,
wow,
do you know who they are off the top of your head?
Well, Rex got to the AFC Championship game in 11. Okay, well, so hold on, in 10 or 11,
right?
Tomlin had to win. Well, I guess I'd have to.
I'll give you
Doug Marrone.
Doug Marrone. Tomlin's last playoff win was in 2016, by the way. So Doug Marrone is correct. In fact, Doug Marrone beat Tomlin in a playoff game.
And then Chan? No, not Chan.
Nope, not Chan.
Not Greg Williams.
Nope. You're getting warmer.
Who am I missing here? Mike Mularkey?
Mike Mularkey with the Titans.
That's amazing. That's
Mike
right.
Mularkey. And I'll give
That's amazing.
And I'll give you the other one because it's kind of cheating because he was only one game, but Anthony Lynn is the other one.
Okay. Well, that counts, right? I mean, it's kind of funny.
Brutal. Pittsburgh. We'll have more time to get to them later in the week, although tomorrow, obviously, we're off for Thanksgiving. Let's get to the Bills, Sal. The practice schedule this week, they are, like, there was no injury report yesterday. Are they practicing tomorrow on Thanksgiving? They would be, right?
Yeah, they're practicing today, actually. Yeah.
And today.
So today's a normal Wednesday, so we'll go down there. Sean McDermott will actually give us an injury update before practice, a little before noon today. They'll be on the practice field. I'll be down there 12:30 p.m. So we'll get an update on injuries. I think the ones that we're watching here are Spencer Brown, who it appeared as though he, what McDermott said last Friday, probably not trending to play this week, but we'll see. Same thing with Terrell Bernard. I would at least be encouraged he called Bernard week to week and not like long term because it looked really bad, but who knows? You don't know how long he's going to be out. That looked pretty bad what happened. But Bernard and Brown, now that's why you probably, the Bills made a few moves this week, as you know. We've been talking about, we can talk more about it, but Tylan Grable was one of them too. Tylan Grable had his 21-day window opened to practice, which I find interesting, Joe, because they did put Brandin Cooks immediately on the roster, they now have 53 guys on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to have 48 active on game day, you must have 8 offensive linemen. Well, if Spencer Brown's not playing, then you're either having Tylan Grable, which they don't do, right? So if Tylan Grable gets activated by Saturday,
Why don't we bring Sal down for a moment? We were losing connection there, and I don't even think we heard who he was saying they could make active. He was starting to get into a little bit there, though. Tylan Grable, Bills' 6th-round pick from last year, who has been on IR, had his practice window opened, and if Spencer Brown is out, then that'll bring up some questions about the offensive line. By the way, and maybe he was about to get to this, you're allowed 8 IR to return designations during the year, and Grable will be the 4th. Hairston, Gabe Davis, and TJ Sanders would be the other couple. So we'll see what that happens at offensive line, especially going into this game without Spencer Brown. And Spencer Brown is a big loss. I mean, he has been, I don't know how long he'll be out, or even if he is out, but he has really developed into a very, very good right tackle. A great one even. And at the contract he's at, you'll see some of these guys that are studying the line. He's a top 5 guy in the league. So anyways, we got Sal back. So Sal, you were just starting to get into what the game day roster might look like and how Grable kind of folds into this.
Yeah. So if you want 48 active on game day, Joe, you have to have 8 offensive linemen active. The Bills never have Chase Lunt active. So if Spencer Brown's out, you either have to have Lunt active to make the 8, or you got to activate Tylan Grable. And if you activate Tylan Grable, who's off the roster? Because now you have 7 wide receivers. Is someone gone? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how this works, but the point I'm making is just that they have some roster decisions to make if you're going to have Tylan Grable active. And if Tylan Grable is active, is he playing instead of Ryan Vandermark? Is he actually your starting tackle? I mean, I don't know. They're going to have to make some decisions here. The other ones we're watching, by the way, real quick, Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, maybe he's the guy. Could be, maybe he's a guy that's not, he goes on IR or something. Fedarian Mathis, and then Max Harrison is in concussion protocol, or at least was, when we heard from McDermott on Friday.
So we'll find out about him today. Very quick follow-up on Grable. Do you remember, where were we at the end of training camp? Was Grable not maybe beating out Vandermark as that swing tackle guy? Or was it close?
Well, he was last year. He beat him out last year. He was the guy. He was the guy. And then he had the concussion pretty early in camp, or at least midway through, and he never practiced again. So we don't know. Like Vandermark was pretty much the guy for most of camp this year because Grable was out. But last year, Grable was the swing tackle and not Vandermark.
Okay. The other injury, I wonder, Sal, if this will become a story at all. You've seen a lot of that Joey Bosa is just not the same player out there right now with the wrist injury. And I don't know if have the Bills even been asked or talked about this at all? Any consideration to having him maybe sit out a little bit to try to get that healthy, or are they just at a point at defensive end where they can't even afford it because there's nobody available?
I mean, no, I don't. Nobody's really asked because he's playing. He's playing a healthy amount of snaps, right? But right. Yes, it's been talked about his load management or how much he's playing. I remember early in the year that Bobby Babich said, it was a little bit more than they wanted when he was on the field for 80% of a game or whatever it was, 70-something percent. So, but I think Joe right now he's playing, and when the stuff started percolating about Shaq this week, lots of people were speculating, oh my God, is Joey Bosa okay? He's been dealing with the wrist. And I went back and watched. He played the last snaps in the Houston game. He rushed the passer. I mean, unless something happened between now and then, I don't see there's anything there, but who knows? You never know what's going on there. But no, I don't know. I mean, he's obviously maybe 10 days, resting that wrist will help him, obviously.
So burying the lead, Sal Capaccio with us. Yeah. Brandin Cooks signed to the 53-man roster yesterday. He's been a very good player for a very long time, Sal, but he is definitely nearing the end of his career. So, one, what do you see his role being? He's on the active roster. This is not practice squad.
Right.
I don't know how high should we set expectation for him, even playing, let alone making an impact on the offense?
I don't think you can have super high expectations. I mean, if it hits, if he can be useful, great, and maybe it gets better as the season goes on. I think that's where I would look. Right away on Sunday. I mean, could he be active on Sunday? I guess he's on the roster. That could happen. It might be a little too much to ask to have him come in. Now, I will say though, he's played in a lot of systems. He's been around the league a while. When you have a veteran like that, you can bring him in. He can probably fit in and know exactly what to do in certain situations, and just kind of talk through it with the quarterback or the offensive coordinator or whatever. I did find one tie-in with the Bills coach. Ronald Curry was on staff in New Orleans with him 1 year, Bills quarterbacks coach. So, there might be some intel there, and they can, kind of have some communication about all that. Now, how much of an impact he could make or what he could do, what his role would be. Well, I do think obviously the speed is still there, but it's not quite probably what it was when he was younger. He's 32 years old now. But he's a good route runner, and he can run slants, and he can run, in-breaking routes and things that can kind of get the Bills a little bit more in position of what they want to do sometimes that I think they're missing right now. I know everybody's enamored with just get a guy on the field that can stretch the field, and that's fine. But what they really need is people who can kind of separate within the first 15 yards as well and be available to Josh Allen a little bit earlier in the down. And I think that's where you're going to look to him because that was the issue in Houston. They just didn't have guys available early enough in the down.
Yeah, when he was at his best, and again, his best came like on 4 different teams. It was New Orleans, there was the year in New England, Rams, Texans. But when he was at his best, yeah, he was not a one-trick pony. Like, he definitely could win down the field, but he was like a route runner, separator, kind of do it all. The only thing he really couldn't do was, like jump balls, just because the size was always an issue.
Right.
But at this point, like, is he maybe what they hoped Elijah Moore would give them a little bit? Like, I guess whose spot would he take both on the game day roster and maybe even eventually just on if somebody gets, shaken loose here?
Joe, your guess is as good as mine at this point because, again, let's go back to they have 7 wide receivers, and that is not including Gabe Davis.
Right.
Right? I mean, if you elevate Gabe, which has one more elevation left, that's 8 wide receivers. As they said in The Sopranos once, somebody's got to go. I mean, I don't know who that is, right? I mean, is that Curtis Samuel in IR? I mean, is that Elijah Moore not being active because of what you just said? I was doing the Bills Kickoff Live with Josh and Thad and the gang and Matt Perino and those guys on Sunday last week and Carl Jones. And Thad said something. He said when you go back and watch the film, he said Elijah Moore is actually getting open more so than people realize. And I know he's a guy, maybe he can kind of, if you can use that a little bit, be more useful with it. But it is a guy that's getting open a little bit more. Now, I don't know if, the Bills plan on doing that. I'm just saying that it feels like, that's a guy that you could use in that same role. But then what does Brandin Cooks offer you? when he comes in. So I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I really don't know how they want to shake this out. And Joe, I mean, the big lingering question here too that we haven't even touched on is what happens with Keon Coleman going forward with all this.
That's
we,
the thing.
We still don't know like what his status is for Sunday.
I was going to ask you. I don't even know if I was going to would you be stunned if it was him that got shaken loose at this point, which feels drastic. But at the same time, Sal,
yes, I would.
If they don't plan on him playing going forward, then what is he doing? He's just sitting on the active roster, not ever getting a uniform?
Yes. Yes, you cannot, Joe, you cannot release, like, if that's what you're getting at, like, there's no way. You can't do that. He has to have some sort of value in the offseason, right? Like, so yes, you would just let him sit on the active roster. You'd have to. That's what you have to do. What's the alternative? You release him, a second-year player who was a second-round pick for you, who is maybe still has some talent you can use, but what you know what I mean? Like, I just could not see that happening. And if that happened, oh my God, do you think people are mad at Brandon Beane right now? I mean, that would be. Yeah. I could never. I don't think there's a precedent for that.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is, like, how much value do you see him having in the offseason anyway? Like, what am I really passing on? A 6th-round pick for him, or do we think it's more than that? Because if it is,
I don't know. Maybe you get more than that, but he might have more value to you than another team, though, in the offseason as well, by the way. Right? I mean, like, you could get to the offseason, and I guess you don't have to write his career right now, even if that is the case. Right? And I know it's not going well. I understand that. He is young. You get to the offseason. Maybe there's some sort of change. Maybe there's a lot of things that can happen. I don't think you have to rush to just get him off my team right now when you still have this young player with 2 years left in his rookie deal.
Very quickly, by the way, we didn't get to it, but Shaq Lawson back, and they just need bodies that are playable, right, Sal, at that point?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for me, let's go back to when people said, oh, this could be about Joey Bosa. I don't think so. I think it's about TJ Sanders. TJ Sanders playing out of position. Right? I mean, like, McDermott told us on Friday they want to get him back inside. Well, a way to do that is to, bring in a defensive end. But what I find interesting is you had a defensive end on your roster that you let go, Andre Jones Jr., who had been practicing with you all season. So if you want a guy who knows the system, he should know the system. There must be something different between the two. Maybe Andre Jones Jr. is more of a pass rusher, where, Shaq Lawson is more of a guy you want, against the run. I mean, all those things can matter. Morgan Fox, by the way, we haven't talked about him, is still on the practice squad. He's a defensive end. He's also a off-ball linebacker if you want to use him that way. A lot of different ways. I said I would do this on X. I'm going to give a shout-out to a tweeter named George because he actually – there was something going on about how the Bills only sign guys who – have been with the organization, and that's all they ever do. And I say this a lot, but he actually put numbers to it. And George wrote, and I said, I'm going to use this on the air, and I'll give George credit. He said, well, I get the frustration with the season. I'm there too. We live in a Bills bubble. In the last 5 seasons, he wrote, and I'm going to trust his numbers on this, okay, Joe? But okay. I mean, I haven't researched it myself, but I said, this is interesting. In the last 5 seasons, he said the Chiefs have re-signed 10 players who they either cut, traded, or left in free agency. The Rams have done it 13 different times.
And what did he have for the Bills doing it?
Well, I don't know. Whatever it is. I mean, the point is, like, you know what I mean? Like, when people say, oh, my God, they only sign guys who are with their team.
Yeah.
Whatever that number is, it's probably the same as those 2 teams, right? For example. And those are 2 teams that are held in high regard.
Yeah. The Chiefs are the team I brought up the other day, too. I didn't know that it was 10, but they have guys. I mean, right now, Kareem Hunt is their starting running back, and he's this. They brought back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Juju has come back and forth a couple of times, so that's right. Like, there are other teams that definitely do it. I would be interested to see how many times the Bills have done it, but I would guess they're probably around the same. We'll see. Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. Thank you, Sal. Happy Thanksgiving. Do you have a star side dish you're excited for tomorrow?
I'm a big stuffing guy. I love stuffing. I'm a turkey and stuffing guy.
Stovetop or homemade?
Meat and potatoes. Kind of doesn't matter. I always say this to people who, when I go to somewhere to eat or someone cooks or whatever, I say, I don't want to be picky because you're cooking it and that's great. So whatever you make, I'll eat and that's great and I appreciate it. So I don't. Hey, you go. I'll clean it up. You know what I mean? I always tell my wife when we have people we're entertaining tomorrow. We're having my family over and her mom is flying up from Florida today, and I always say, like, yeah, you know what? I'm not great at preparing it. I can't really help in that regard. So you guys do all that. I'll eat it and then I'll do whatever you want to clean everything up and you guys can relax.
I like it. Thank you, Sal. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, you too, buddy. Thanks.
There's a report from Diana Rossini, by the way, speaking of Thanksgiving football, that George Pickens has been limited by calf and knee injuries this week, but is likely to still play against the Chiefs tomorrow, but that's something to monitor, maybe.